It's been a minute, buddy. How you been? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm McRed2, and today we're going to be taking on Ben Shapiro. It's kind of strange doing videos rebutting, debunking, whatever you want to call it, Ben Shapiro, because I used to think that Ben Shapiro was one of the only intellectuals on the right. I couldn't see through the fact that all he is just somebody who talks fast and knows debate tactics well and then argues in bad faith using both of those tactics. But today's video seems to be about Trump's ban from Twitter and social media platforms, and claiming that Daily Wire could apparently be next. Let's go ahead and jump into the video and see what he has to say, because I feel like this is going to be just like every other reactionary content creator on the internet.
So I just want to begin today with something that I never do, but I'm going to do it now. Okay, I really don't do this because it's self-serving and it seems silly, but I'm just going to say right now, I want you to go subscribe over at dailywire.com.
Okay, so you don't usually shill for your website, but you do shill for your merch quite regularly. In most episodes of this show, you shill for your merch. This is just the first time that I've personally heard you shilling for your website. All of these conservatives are doing that. Caitlin Bennett's doing it. I guess Daily Wire is doing it. They're all moving to their own websites, which will never get as much traction as YouTube does. You can't compete with YouTube. But all these right-wing grifters are all moving to their own website because they have this victim complex about being censored when spreading white supremacy or Nazi values or inciting insurrection.
To this show, it's what we do at Daily Wire. The reason I'm saying this is because we are quickly reaching crisis point in terms of the attempt to bar conservatives from virtually every platform.
I'm sorry. First of all, you're not reaching a crisis point. Donald Trump incited an insurrection. He planted the seeds for it for the last 4 years, particularly in the last year leading up to the election day. And then since election day has been spreading lies and misinformation about fraudulent votes or problems with the electoral process. And then on January 6th, told his supporters to stop by the Capitol and defend democracy and yada, yada, yada. They banned Donald Trump from Twitter, and then all the other social media platforms followed suit, and then banned people that he tried to tweet through, as well as people that were inciting acts of terrorism, all of which are against their terms of service. You're still on YouTube, you're still on Twitter, you're still on Facebook, because you personally have not violated those terms of service, and you'll stay there until you do. Amazon just simply stopped doing business with Parler, stopped renting out server space to them, which is perfectly legal for them to do. They don't have to do business with anybody. You're not being censored because you're a conservative. You're not even being censored, Ben. People who incite terrorist attacks on our nation's capital and people who promote white supremacy outright and Nazi ideology outright are being censored. They're just being deplatformed, which these businesses have the right to do.
That is what we are watching in real time happen. On the back of the awful and evil incident at the Capitol last week, the entire tech infrastructure is now mobilizing in order to take conservative outlets off the air, in order to ensure that conservative websites no longer appear. Here's the thing. They may not be doing it right this second, but they have now...
I'm sorry, no. Removing conservative websites from the internet, they didn't even remove Parler. This isn't government action. Amazon was renting Parler server space for their website, and they just stopped doing business with them. They didn't take down their website that they had no claim over. They owned the servers Parler was using. Gab is still up. They have their own servers. The government isn't doing this. Big tech isn't doing this. They're simply enforcing terms of service that have been there since the site went up. YouTube recently updated its terms of service to prevent conspiracy theories from spreading around, which is not a bad thing. Don't spread conspiracy theories, don't incite terrorism, and don't spread white supremacy and Nazi ideology, and you're fine, Ben.
set the predicate that they can do it whenever they want. And what they are doing right now is that the tech bros have declared war on conservatives. It's going to be a slow-moving war. They're going to start with people who are outliers. They're going to start with people who are considered more radical. But they have basically decided that if they, at any point, have the opportunity to take you out, they will take you out.
And terrorists. They're not going after milquetoast conservatives. Caitlin Bennett, somebody who supports a monarchy and making Donald Trump king of America, is still on Twitter. They're not coming after all conservatives. They're coming after people that incite violence and have genocidal ideologies.
So I can't guarantee how long Apple Podcasts is going to be distributing things like Daily Wire podcasts. I can't guarantee how long Amazon Web Services is going to allow websites like Daily Wire to be up. You need to go directly to the source. You need to go to dailywire.com right now, and you need to subscribe, because it may be, over the course of the next couple of years, it may be the only way you actually get the content that you want. Okay, the way that Facebook is moving, the way that Twitter is moving, the way that all of these outlets are moving, all of these supposed platforms, they are now no longer really platforms. They are now publishers.
No, they're not. You're a lawyer, Ben. You are a lawyer. You supposedly went to Harvard Law. You know the difference in a legal sense between a platform and a publisher. A newspaper is a publisher. They can curate every last letter and punctuation that gets published in their paper or on their website. Facebook, you can post whatever you want as long as it doesn't violate terms of service. Terms of service, which are a legal binding contract that you agree to willingly. If you're not okay with those terms of service, don't use the platform. You don't get to just change the definition of words just because it doesn't suit your fancy, Ben. Facts don't care about your feelings. Isn't that your catchphrase? It is a fact that they are a platform, not a publisher. There is a legal definition for the two. You should know this. You're a lawyer.
Basically, based on what they are doing, the way that all of these outlets are moving, they're moving more and more toward the deplatforming, dismissal, the creation of an echo chamber just for the left. That is what is happening right now.
No, they don't like socialists either. I've had things taken off my Facebook wall because they were distinctly anti-capitalist or too far to the left, or at least things that I shared. The original post was removed. They aren't just coming after conservatives, they're going after people with extremist ideologies, or what they consider to be an extremist ideology, which would include communists and socialists. If they don't want it on their site, they don't have to host it.
We are watching the purge, okay? And it's not just on the tech level. It is also happening at the corporate level. It's already happened in Hollywood. It is happening in the schools. It is happening nearly everywhere. We are dividing formally into two Americas. Those Americas are not divided by state. They're not really divided by race. Those Americas are divided by politics.
I wonder who's doing more division here, Ben. The people propagating this idea that we can't coexist with the other? I'm sorry, I don't want to coexist with Nazis and white supremacists. I don't have too much of a problem coexisting with a milquetoast conservative. But you're pushing this ideology that anybody to the left of you is a leftist, is a communist, is a socialist, is a Marxist or a Leninist. You're the one who's dividing America more than it either needs to be or even is being divided. You and your ilk, people who spread the shit that you're saying, are the ones that are dividing America and creating this two America system that you're talking about here. It's a fiction that you're creating to try and insulate yourself into your own right-wing bubble.
There will be a group of corporations that only services the left. There will be a group of online mechanisms that are only allowed to actually platform the left. And the right's going to have to build its own outside mechanisms.
Why would a company in a capitalist system, in a capitalist market, remove half of the market share, half of their customer base, simply because of an ideology? The people that they're removing are a very loud minority of Americans. They're removing Nazis and white supremacists. They're not removing conservatives, because if you remove conservatives, you're removing a little less than half of America. Do you know how much money they're going to lose if they remove all conservatives? No company under a capitalist system is going to do that. This is a fantasy. You're creating this fantasy so that you can be a victim in the situation. It's not happening. Certainly not under capitalism.
I've been warning about this for quite a while. It's amazing because the same people right now who are calling for deplatforming, the same people who are calling for corporations not to do business with people who are conservative, the same people who are attempting to boot people from platforms that were supposed to be places for open discussion and debate, those same people complain that the right lives in an echo chamber.
Well, first of all, the right does live in an echo chamber, but nobody is calling for all conservatives to be removed. They're calling for people that incited a terrorist attack on our nation's capital to be removed. You're the one that is equating the terrorists that stormed the Capitol with all conservatives. You're lumping them together by saying that big tech, social media wants to get rid of conservatives because they got rid of terrorists. Would you be okay with Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube hosting ISIS propaganda? Would you be okay with them hosting North Korean propaganda or any of our other enemies, Russian propaganda, Chinese propaganda, openly and promoting it? Would you have a problem with that? I guarantee you would. But in the system that you claim you want to live under, all of those things, ISIS, China, North Korea, Russia, and all of our enemies would be able to post on the same social platforms that you do and be lended the same level of credibility that you are. You're lumping in the terrorists with the conservatives, not us.
Well, one of the reasons that the right has increasingly lived in an echo chamber is because the left has forced everybody outside the Overton window. The left continues to shrink the Overton window so that it encompasses only them and only their friends.
No, the Overton window has shifted so far to the right in the last 6 years. Holy shit. The fact that Nazis were able to hold multiple marches in America is ridiculous. That goes to show how far the Overton window has shifted. It's not moving to the left, it's moving to the right, and we're trying to pull it back to reality, back to sanity. I can handle debating a fiscal conservative. I lose my mind when I have to try and tell a Nazi that the Jews aren't running America, or a white supremacist that black people aren't the reason that America is falling to pieces. That's what I have to deal with. I didn't have to deal with that shit 4, 5, 6 years ago. Where are they getting this fucking narrative that the Overton window is just the left? Do you even know what the left is? Because people like Ben Shapiro think the left is anybody who's not a Republican, which is not true. I used to think that. I used to think that liberals were part of the left too. Liberals aren't part of the left. They're just slightly left of center, or centrist at that. The Overton window has moved so far to the right that Democrats are now considered centrists in the eyes of the left.
Everyone else will be canceled. Everyone else will lose access to even speak to other people.
No, you're not going to lose access to speak to people. Oh God, Jesus Christ. I know he's going to move to the constitutional argument saying that Twitter banning Donald Trump is an infringement on our freedom of speech. It's not. The government can't keep you from speaking to people, but the First Amendment does not entitle you to people's attention. It doesn't mean that people have to listen to you. It just means you can say whatever you want. And there are even limitations on the First Amendment.
What we are watching right now is one of the most dangerous moments in modern American history. Not just because of what happened.
Yeah, what we're witnessing is one of the most dangerous moments in modern American history. But not for the reason you think it is, Ben. It's because of these far-right terrorists that are trying to overthrow our government. They're planning on storming the inauguration. There's 3 times more American troops in Washington, D.C. than there are in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan. 3 places that we're currently at war with. Your people, the people you influence, are the reason we are in the most dangerous period of modern American history, not because Trump got banned off of Twitter. You're such a fucking snowflake.
Happened at the Capitol last week. That was extraordinarily dangerous, and we are finding out new details showing how extraordinarily dangerous that was for the Congress people, for the vice president, for everybody inside, for the police officers. A second police officer committed suicide over the weekend. Right? It was an extraordinarily dangerous event. But it turns out that on the back of extraordinarily dangerous events, extraordinarily terrible things can take place. And one of the things that is taking place right now is the division of America into conservative and liberal.
America has been dividing since the Southern strategy, since the Civil Rights era, since black people got the same rights as white people in America. That's when the division started, and it's just gotten wider and wider and wider and wider and wider until we're now at such a polarized state that one side, your side, Ben, is attacking the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. You don't see leftists doing that. The most left organization that's had any violence in recent memory is the Black Lives Matter movement, and 93% of those were peaceful, and the vast majority of the ones that were not peaceful, the violence was instigated by law enforcement. You're not seeing the left attacking government buildings and trying to take hostages.
This could be a unifying moment, as I said last week, because everybody of sound mind looks at what happened at the Capitol last week and is appalled and thinks it's disgusting and horrible. Instead, what we are watching is the exacerbation.
There are people in Congress that supported and do support the terrorist attack. There are people in Congress that led terrorists on guided tours of the Capitol the day before it happened. I don't know if you could say those people have a sound mind, but they're major people in America, and they support what happened. You can't pretend like everybody disavows.
Of an underlying philosophical rift. And not just that. What we are watching is the formalization of that rift, so that now you are just not going to be able to associate with anybody on the opposite side of the aisle, because the people on the other side of the aisle will not want to associate with you in any way, shape, or form.
You're right. I don't want to associate with Nazis. I don't want to associate with white supremacists. I don't want to associate with the Ben Shapiros and the Steven Crowders and the Candace Owens and the Jesse Lee Petersons and the Jordan B. Petersons of the world. I don't want to associate with you people because you promote a hateful, xenophobic, genocidal ideology. But my dad is a conservative. And him and I butt heads regularly, my dad and my stepmom and my younger brother. He calls himself a libertarian, he's kind of an ANCAP. I don't mind associating with them because they're not bad people. They don't want to see portions of our populace removed from the country. They don't want to prevent people of a certain skin tone from coming in. They don't want to prevent women from having bodily autonomy. They don't want to institute a system of governance that caters to straight, white, Christian men. But you people do. And those are the people that are getting the boot from social media. You're just a loud minority. You're fear-mongering to the milquetoast Republican conservatives that watch your show because they think you're smart, because you talk fast. You're trying to scare them into moving further right. You're not creating unity, and you're claiming all of the division is coming from the left when the right has been causing the division since the Civil Rights era.
Hey, Axios is basically admitting that this morning. So Axios has a short piece by Mike Ellen and Jim Vandehey, and here's what they write. Republicans are losing power where power matters most at the national level, in politics, media, technology, and the workplace. Okay, this is right. Okay, this happens to be correct.
Good.
The right is being barred from the halls of power in nearly every area of American life.
Good, because there's a difference between the right and conservatives, just like there's a difference between the left and liberals. The right are the people we don't want in our society. The Nazis, the white supremacists, yada, yada, yada. Those people, Trump supporters are those people, are the ones that are losing power. Not your conservative grandpa that just doesn't really agree with universal health care. He's wrong, but he's not a hateful person.
From sports to Hollywood, from technology to your workplace, right? You're getting the letters from your employer saying that if you posted in favor of Trump back in September, or if you said, I'm voting for Trump back in September, or if you posted against Black Lives Matter back in August, well, you know, you may lose your job.
No, nobody is getting that. Holy fucking shit. No, holy God. You are straight up lying to your audience. That is not happening. Forbes released an article saying that nobody in the West Wing that was Donald Trump's mouthpiece, like Kelly McEnany and all of them, all those types, should not be hired at any media corporations because of what they did in the last 4 years. He's taking that very specific group of people that article was written about and expanding it and draping it over all conservatives. This is not happening. Nowhere is this happening. You're not going to get fired because you were a Trump supporter unless you were a terrorist and are getting looked into by the FBI. You are lying to people. This is straight up fear-mongering. I thought you were better than this, Ben. This is pathetic. I genuinely thought you, of all of the right-wing grifters, were better than this.
All your friends are going to look at you askance. If you work in the tech industry and you signify that you are in favor of sites like Daily Wire or Daily Caller or anyone on the right not being shadow banned or downplayed, you might find yourself on the firing line.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
The political conflict that is characterized.
Now, if you talk about your support for websites like Stormfront, a literal Nazi website, sure, but the Daily Wire isn't an outspoken outlet for white supremacy. They just dog whistle it all day long, but your average Joe is not going to be able to recognize a white supremacist dog whistle, but they can definitely tell that the Daily Stormer is a Nazi website, and big business is not going to want to associate with that. As long as there's an air of plausible deniability, big business is going to look the other way for the sake of profit.
The country since inception, right? I mean, that's never stopped. Has now boiled over into every area of American life. This is where it affects Americans because who wins Congress, who doesn't win Congress, that has some impact on your life. Right? Who wins the presidency? Who doesn't win the presidency? That has some impact on your life in terms of regulations and taxes and policy. But what really has impact on your life is how you're treated by your friends, by your neighbors, by your employers, by the outlets that you use, by the culture that surrounds you.
So if your friends treat you differently for supporting a racist, homophobic, xenophobic piece of shit, that's understandable. But your employer is not going to treat you differently for simply being a Republican. There's a difference between your friends thinking you were a piece of shit and your employer firing you because you posted something that was pro-Trump. I'm sure there is some fucking woke as fuck small business out there that won't hire you for being a Trump supporter. But major businesses, major corporations, they can't afford to lose half their workforce. They're not going to do that.
And all of that is being twisted against you right now if you are a conservative.
So that was 5 minutes of lies and fear-mongering. I genuinely thought that Ben Shapiro was better than this for some reason. I held Ben Shapiro a little bit higher than the Crowders and the Candaces of the world. I guess not anymore, because that was just straight fear-mongering and lies. Nothing that he said was true, with the exception of your friends and family are going to look at you differently if you supported Trump, because he incited a terrorist attack, and the racism and the xenophobia and the homophobia and the transphobia and that was the only thing that had a grain of truth in that entire video that he put out on his platform with over 1 million subscribers. That video has 250,000 views. Daily Wire has 2.5 million subscribers. And he's lying to 2.5 million people. And 250,000 people have already heard those lies. It's literally fear-mongering, and all of the right-wing grifters online they're all making the same exact fucking video. I just did Candace Owens' video a few days ago that was saying the same damn thing. Steven Crowder has done the same. I wouldn't be surprised if all of the other grifters are doing the same. I guarantee you Tim Pool's doing the same. They're all making the same video to try and scare their audience into going and supporting them financially. It's all a grift. It's all for clicks. But when you have people this big, it's going to convince people to do terrible things. It's going to convince people to maybe grab their AR and march their way down or drive their way down to Washington, D.C. on the 19th to get ready for the 20th. It's things like these that lead to the events of the 6th. At least this time we don't have Trump on Twitter to fan the flames. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, hit the subscribe button. You can hit the bell as well so you can get notified whenever I upload. I try to upload at least once a week. You can follow me in my socials here. I'm on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitch. I stream every Saturday night and Sunday night starting at about 8 p.m. I do have a kid, so depends on how bedtime goes. I try to stay away from politics over there and just kind of relax and have video game streams. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Until the next one, peace.